She's currently a senior human resources and labor relations advisor at Vancouver Coastal Health, where she supports large multi-stakeholder teams and leads the resolution of high-impact workplace issues. Samantha's strengths are in collective bargaining, grievance management, conflict resolution, and employer-union relations, and she's recognized for guiding leaders through sensitive labor matters with clarity and fairness. Beyond labor relations, Samantha brings broad HR expertise across talent acquisition, training, compensation, benefits, OH&S, that is occupational health and safety, consistently aligning HR practices with organizational goals. Samantha is known for calm judgment, negotiation skills, and ability to stabilize complex labor dynamics that make her a trusted voice in our modern HR practice. Welcome, Samantha. Thank you so much for the time today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me today.
Next, Kehinde Ogbemudia. Thank you so much, Kehinde, for your time today. Kehinde is a seasoned HR professional with over a decade of experience across manufacturing, financial services, and multinational environments. She currently serves as an HR specialist at McCain Foods, where she supports a large workforce through talent management, employee relations, performance systems, and day-to-day HR operations. With prior roles at Providus Bank, Maple Leaf Foods, and Halogen Security, she has built strong expertise in capability development, performance improvement, and supporting leaders in fast-paced settings. Kehinde holds certifications including CIPMN, that is the Chartered Institute of, what's CIPMN? Sorry.
Personal Management, Nigeria.
Exactly, because I have that as well. I don't know. Please forgive me. A bit of brain freeze there, including CIPMN, APHRI, and CPHR Manitoba membership. And she's completing a Human Resources Management certificate at the University of Manitoba. Impressive. Known for her analytical approach, clear communication, and balanced tactical strategic support, she brings professionalism, empathy, and practical insight to HR practice every day. Thank you so much for joining us today, Kehinde.
Thank you for the privilege, Ibeli.
And last but not least, Imole Ashogbon, who is our convener. He's a senior HR leader and career strategist with over 15 years of experience across Canada and global Fortune 500 environments. He currently serves as Director of HR and Labor Relations at one of Alberta's leading universities, where he provides institutional leadership across culture, compliance, labor relations, and organizational effectiveness. Imole has supported over 1,000 professionals in securing meaningful careers in Canada and has advised CEOs and senior executives on building resilient, high-performing people systems. As an HR instructor at the University of Calgary, he designs and delivers applied HR programs that prepare professionals for real-world complexity and not just theory. Recognized for his HR expertise, he's widely regarded as a trusted voice in modern HR leadership and is ranked among the top HR creators in Canada, including top 3 in the HR industry and top 40 overall, with over 55,000 engaged followers on LinkedIn. Thank you for your time today, Imole.
Thank you.
We're going to go over, just before we go straight into things, we're going to go over housekeeping rules. If we can ask us to please turn off all distractions, please put phones on silent and put them away. Take notes where you can. Please note any questions or comments that you have, your contributions, and then please place your questions in the chat box. At the end of this webinar, our goal is for all of us to walk away with a strong understanding or a stronger understanding of why labor relations talent is rising and what it means for the coming year, 2026. The high-risk scenarios you must prepare for before they escalate, and how to close the knowledge gap between employee rights and leader obligations, as well as a simple framework to reduce organizational risk immediately. Are we ready? If we are, please, let's show our engagement by leaving us an emoji in the comment section. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Okay, so we'll progress by going through our questions. We have a series of questions today for our speakers, and we will take them one after the other. Our speakers will have 2 to 3 minutes to respond to the questions and share their thoughts based on their experience and expertise with us today. And like I said earlier, we'll note comments and questions in the chat box and we'll take them at the end of our webinar. We'll have about 15 minutes for questions and comments. Thank you so much, everyone. To begin, I'd like to ask our speakers today, what has fundamentally changed in Canada's labor relations landscape that HR professionals can no longer afford to treat labor relations as a niche skill? And I'll begin with asking Samantha to go first, and then Kehinde, if you please, and then Imole. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emily, to invite me answer this. From our perspective, my perspective of personal experience, I feel like labor relations is no longer a episode or reactive. It started embedded in the daily HR decision makings, from the procedural fairness to how the decisions are made. The matters are really important to your clientele, to your parties, to especially the union you're dealing with. And they wanted to make sure there's no differential treatments, there's no preferential treatments, right? And the other way we see it, my experience, especially in public sectors, documentations is very important. We have to start with file with knowing or have a good understanding that everything is ready for arbitrations, everything is ready for tribunals, and everything is ready for freedom of information requests. From my perspective, the operationals and the procedures, there are some tensions. We, as an HR and LR, we often get from the leaders that, oh, I want quick actions. I want this to be done today. I want this to be done tomorrow. I want this action by this week. And then by end of this week, you as HR need to deliver to operational aid decisions. From war leaders asking, and an HR LR comes in where what our process are, we have to make sure the process are followed, right? And sometimes HRs are caught in the middle, so as LR. I think that's where I see that every HR has to come in with a certain extent of LR knowledge in order for them to succeed in the workforce nowadays.
Thank you, Samantha. Kehinde, your thoughts?
Thank you, Ibele. So what has fundamentally changed in labor relations landscape today? I'll tell you for a fact that conflict would always happen in the workplace. And in my opinion, I believe that today, because of the generational shift, the increase of the millennials and the Gen Z in the workplace, employees are now more aware of their rights. They're far more aware of what their rights are in the workplace. They're very vocal, like they're really willing to escalate concerns, So unfortunately, issues appear to reach grievances a lot faster these days. And that's why you need an HR team that is actually proactive, that is structured, and that comes with an understanding of conflicts being a part of the workplace. Our ability to be proactive with documentation would actually determine how we support the organization during periods like that. There's also a shift in legislative expectation because globally now, there are conversations around psychological safety, human rights, and accommodation. And when you talk about accommodation, you're not just talking about medical accommodations. It could also be psychological accommodations. I mean, 10, 15, 20 years ago, psychological safety was not a thing as much as it is today. You hear about the word health and safety. That is very common, But psychological safety seems to be something pretty, quite recent in the workplace. And it's also understandable because of the shift in, the workforce, the increase of millennials and Gen Z in the workplace, Another thing is the workplace structure. Now we have a lot of hybrid work, people working remotely. We have a lot of cultural diversity, particularly in Canada, where you have people from all over the world, in the workplace. And of course, the generational shift I spoke about earlier. Now, all of this creates more misunderstandings in the workplace. And then before you know it, it becomes a labor relations issues. And that is why in today's world, labor relations is actually not just, it should not be a specialty for only a few experts. It should be a core competency every HR professional needs to confidently build. Because at the end of the day, conflict would always happen in the workplace. And we have to be able to proactively manage this conflict before they escalate, because things escalate really quickly these days. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks, Kendi. Imole.
I was just smiling when Kenny was responding to that, and just to add a bit more, for me, labor relations is no longer a function, right? For me, it's a standard now that HR decisions are being judged, right? It's not just one aspect or one function. So what has changed? Why it's no longer option? And one critical thing we must understand now is that labor relations principles now apply across the unionized and non-unionized workplace. So arbitrators and courts, they assert fairness for unionized folks, and that means they are right now applying the same consistently, to procedural integrity across board. So you can't just say, oh, I don't want labor relations. I, like a lot of people, avoid it, or it's not my business. And the same standard is being applied across board now. Another critical reason is unions and employees representation in Canada is becoming more legally sophisticated, right? Apart from the fact that it's increasing, I remember very well 5-6 years ago, it was about 22%. Right now it's 31%. Becoming more sophisticated. They are more data informed now, and like Kenny, was it Kenny that said it too, that a lot of Gen Zs and all the younger ones, they're becoming unionized, they're clamoring for unionism. So right now it's no longer an issue. HR is increasingly evaluated now, not just for intent or by intent, but whether the decision can withstand external scrutiny. And so it's no longer optional for HR professionals. I think that's just what I like to say. The boards, everybody, they are sitting up to the realities. If it can be negotiated there, if it can be applied there, why we that were not unionized, why are we not getting the same benefits, or why are we not getting better? And organizations are realizing that fact. And because we know strategically organizations are doing a lot to push back those that are not unionized, therefore it becomes a skill set that even if you're just in employee relations, it's critical for you as a business partner to have these competences, if you would help your organization win in the marketplace.
Precisely. Thank you, Imole. I will add that labor relations is traditionally recognized as the relationship that stems between the union that represents, like, the employees represented by a union, and then the employer. Employee relations, on the other hand, is a bit more general. It's just a bit more like high-level blankets, like the relationship between the employer and the employee.
Sure.
I think there needs to be ongoing recognition, just based off what is Samantha, Kenny, and Imole have noted. I think for every one of us on this call, all of us professionals, just a continuing reminder that in whatever aspect of practice we are in, we need to understand well how our processes underline the relationship between the employee and the employer. So it's the entire gamut of the employee experience and what that means for the employee at every turn. Like Kinde said, best to be fair across implementing all the procedures that the business has. Otherwise, then we have issues. And if we're not proactive, there are problems. Okay, so we'll move on to the next question. Okay, so for our speakers today, in your experience, where do most HR teams unintentionally create labor relations risk without realizing it? Again, we'll begin with Samantha.
Thank you, Emily. I think in HR world, the most professional struggles with is to start with a word named inconsistent. We struggle with inconsistent processes, inconsistent explanations in like collectible language, inconsistent explanations to the individual employees, to the unions. I think that's the biggest risk from the HR team that led to LR actions, right? I have to say, also, the second one is undocumentations. There are conversations that manager wanted to have their employees, but it's not documented. That's a bigger risk, where the HR is there to guide and lead leaders to have the conversations with the proper representations, either from the unions or from the employees. And then one thing I would like to have every HR in the room to think about it before you provide any recommendations or before you make any decisions? Is it how would this read in front of arbitrators? This is the question I ask myself a lot, and which I find it super helpful when I look into things, because it does gives me perspectives on what the decisions could intentionally or potentially being read into, and what are the consequences that lead to it. Thank you, Emily.
Thanks so much, Sam. Kende, your thoughts?
Thank you. So I would say that I'm going to just take it on from where Samantha stopped. Consistency, documentation, fairness, they are key factors we must always have in mind as labor relations experts. And frankly speaking, the goal is not to avoid conflict. As HR professionals, it's our job to manage conflict early and manage it fairly. Now, one of the ways we can have this properly done is consistent practices, consistent processes, where we treat everybody fairly, where we treat everybody, equitably. I think one of the mistakes a lot of us make, and where things escalate really fast, is that sometimes informal conversations go unrecorded. What do I mean? So you have that conversation with that employee, and then at that point, it's just supposed to be a small informal conversation. But then again, at the end of the day, there are no guarantees on how far an issue would go. So every situation should actually be treated as a potential arbitration. So I would say, top risk, the first one is inconsistent documentation. We have to be consistent in our approach of documentation. Now, informal conversations should still be documented. It doesn't hurt to document. As HR professionals, it doesn't hurt. We can never go wrong with documentation. And sometimes managers, they send mixed messages, So, and that's where HR comes in, to provide support, to provide some sort of guide on how best we navigate these complex situations. Now, sometimes HR professionals, in a bit of wanting to be helpful, we tend to step out of structured processes because we're trying to be helpful, we're trying to support the manager, and then things get out of hands. And that is what brings the part of being inconsistent, which is why consistency, documentation, treating people fairly, it has to be a way of life for every HR professional, for everybody in labor relations. Frankly speaking, in today's world, unions, arbitrators, mediators, they rely heavily on past practice.
Yeah.
And that is why being consistent you can never go wrong with being consistent, really. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Kenny. Imole?
I think they've hit the nail on the head, Sam and Kenny. The other thing I may just want to add is progressive information, progressive knowledge and upgrading. You can't do HR in 2025 or 2026 like you do HR in 2010, right? The future of work is here. Processes, practices, knowledge, everything is changing so fast, right? You can't also be administrative in your thinking. I talk a lot about strategic HR. So if you want to excel exceedingly here as an HR professional, you have to keep upgrading yourself. You have to be informed. You have to be intentional about upgrading your mindsets and getting informed about what is the ESA saying, what is even written in your CBA. You have to equip yourself with information. The other thing I would like to also add to that is context. HR is never black and white. You will get it wrong if you think it's just black and white. There's always context. There's always gray area in HR. And so if you want to excel and you want to do awesomely as an HR professional, especially in labor relations, you must always have context. You must always know how to navigate the gray. Emotional intelligence is critical. And so most HR teams still expose and put the organization in problem because, that's what the policy says, or that is what I thought. No. Right? Because you're dealing with human beings. There are new information. Context is king. Never assume. In HR, you don't have room for assumptions. You must ask all the right questions, right? And like Kenny said, because a manager shows up, managers will just come up, I want it now. or this is what they did and all of that. I've seen a lot of HR professionals who just jump into conclusion and say, because the manager said it is right. No, 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 no. Your job as an HR professional is to be an independent ombudsman. And that means that you're looking at all the facts and getting all the context and not just swimming into like, because they said it, this is it. No, you expose yourself, you put your organization in problem, like a lot of us do. So the critical thing to add there is context. Context is king. Reduce your assumptions. Exonerate yourself from making conclusions. Just because it looks like it doesn't mean it is the situation. And and by the time we pay attention to that, of course, we'll reduce the risk either in labor relations or even employee relations.
Correct. Thanks, Imale. Just a note for all of us to remember that process and procedure are just as crucial as outcomes. It is crucial in the spirit of fairness, in the spirit of, because an arbitrator will throw out a case because process there, and they will rely on established precedent, legal precedent. And so it is crucial that in implementing processes, we are uniformly applying. There's no amount of singing and dancing about this that is enough. Because otherwise you have inconsistent practice, and then you set precedents for poor practice, and therefore for issues when it comes to grievances, when it comes to human rights complaints, when it comes to lawsuits. Okay, thank you so much. And our next question, we'd like our speakers to share their thoughts about what the early warning signs are that a routine employee relations issue is about to escalate into a formal grievance or union dispute. In your experience, what have you seen? We'll start again with Samantha.
Yeah, Bolly. I feel like it's quite a difference in nowadays compared to a couple of years ago. You will see employees start refusing to meet with the manager informally, which is the management rights by that way. And then employees start requesting everything that is in writing, your conversations, the policies, expectations shared. They are declining on those supportive conversations where the manager is supposed to approach it, right, and to ask what they can do, what they can help. And there often is very resisted. They want things to be documented. They are calling that I want to invite my union sword to protect myself, right? And there are also way they're saying that I feel like this isn't fair. I am being targeted. I am being discriminated against too based on my gender, my race, or anything else. And they also quoted, this is not the first time that happened. It happened before. But the others are being treated differently. So it circles back to, oh, I'm being discriminated. I think this is a really good sign for the professional to look at it. If you're seeing this, then you are close to the grievance. I have to say you should expect a grievance that come to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Samantha. We'll hear next from Kenny.
Thank you, Bailey and Samantha. So I believe that there are actually some predictable signals when an issue is about to escalate. And what do I mean? When employees start quoting policy, when they start making reference to legislation, clearly they're beginning to build up a case. Because at the end of the day, if you go through mediation or you go through arbitration, you're going to still make references to those legislative quotes. So when an employee or when people start quoting legislation, they start making reference to legislation, clearly things are beginning to brew. When you send an email and then they're replying to you, copying additional people into emails, bringing in the external union rep, it tells you that they're becoming very positional. They're no longer looking at the solution. They're clearly setting up and letting you know that this is about to escalate. When employees start refusing informal conversations, they start making allegations that are not fact-based. They start questioning how fair you are or how consistent you are with your practice. It means that things are beginning to brew into a major union dispute. I mean, when people start documenting everything, start documenting conversations you've had with them, start making reference to previous conversations you've had, they're gradually beginning to get ready, for a challenge. So what I would say is, as HR professionals, when we see these signs, it basically means that, okay, things are beginning to change here. And what is required at such instances is early intervention. Like I always say, conflict is predictable. What matters is early intervention, our ability to manage it, our ability to nip it in the bud, our ability to make sure we have the relevant documentations in place, our ability to follow procedures, follow procedures, be fair, be consistent, be equitable, assess the situation, clarify, treat everybody fairly. You never go wrong. ACT, assess the situation, clarify, treat everybody fairly. That's what I'll say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kenny. Excellent. ACT, those are the steps that we need to, again, when an issue comes up, we need to treat it as an iceberg. What is obvious, but there's more underneath. There's usually much more underneath. And so we need to ask questions and follow through with our inquiries to clarify what the facts actually are. Imole?
I mean, I think truly they've said it all. The only other angle I want to bring to this is when we find our managers or supervisors, when you find them becoming lackadaisical about processes, about how they handle people, then like you said, the iceberg is brewing under, right? When you find your managers are being unfair, or they are being inconsistent, or they are prejudice or favoritism is showing. Even you can see it. You heard the way they are treating certain people compared to the others. You are also begin to see the signs that there's trouble coming at the end. While we might not be able to reduce, while we might not be able to prevent conflict, we can manage it. And from a strategic angle, is ensuring that our managers, our supervisors, our middle-level managers, they are trained, they are coached properly, right? To treat people fairly, to be consistent in their approach. Because truly, by the time people start formalizing things, they start documenting and, like Grant says, start bringing in union into those meetings or copying people. It is getting to. But the angle I come from is when you see that your managers are beginning to take things with levity, or they are beginning to drop process, or then you are also calling for you're also waiting for escalations. That's the truth. One of the sites I managed a few years ago, we had high level grievances, and one of the strategic things I did to reduce it was manager trainings, right? Was supervisor trainings, right? And part of things we dealt with was the combative nature. In managing the union, you can either be integrative, you can be collaborative or combative. A lot of them were combative. So another sign is that when your leaders are combative, they hate the union, they hate the people, then the trouble is brewing. Be ready for grievances, be ready for arbitrations. So once we can see those signs and attack it from that angle,
yes,
then we reduce disruptions.
Thanks so much, Imole. A few interesting questions coming up, but we'll take a couple more questions and then I will take and then we'll move on. So what mistakes, if we can ask our speakers today, what mistakes do HR leaders commonly make during investigations that later weaken their position in arbitration or litigation? So we'll begin with Samantha.
Thank you, Emily. Investigation is an important piece in the HR's life. Everyone knows that. But then I think the issue with the investigations is that I don't think when investigation goes to arbitrations, it's not like the employer lost it because it was investigated. It was because how it was investigated. Right? Did we follow the processes? The important pieces of the investigations has to always start with what we are investigating for, right? Are there any allegations, and what are these allegations, right? And once we define allegations, we need to know what the policies or what are the issues that are in questions, whether we're trying to investigate it or we're trying to find out those are being substantiated before the investigations. Then the evidence need to be reviewed. The witnesses, the key parties, any parties involved need to be interviewed. Before coming into conclusions, there shouldn't be any decisions to be made. And then oftenly the HR decided, or oftenly the HR started recommending, oh, we could move forward with a warning, or we may be able to move forward with a disciplinary like terminations. Now you start making decisions before you are even reviewing every pieces of the investigations. That's where I see you could really weaken the employer's positions in arbitrations, because the arbitrator would really look at the whole situations and then wanting to know like how the decisions being made and then why the decisions was made. I think those are the important pieces.
Thanks so much, Samantha. Kenny, we'll take
Yeah.
your thoughts.
Thank you. So one thing that has helped me in my HR journey as a labor relations expert is that I treat every investigation as a potential arbitration case. So when you approach each of your investigation with the possibility of it getting to arbitration, it kind of helps to guide the conversation. Frankly speaking, I think one of the biggest mistakes we make as HR professionals is documentation. So when I talk about documentation, like you never go wrong with documentation. I can't overemphasize that. The little things you leave out might be what would stand you out when you go for that mediation meeting. So talk about past practice. That's another thing. As much as the CBA is there to guide us, it's our Bible, it's a dictionary in any unionized environment. But then again, past practice is as strong as the CBA itself. So, and that's where you talk about fairness. They're all interwoven. Complete or the depth or the richness of your documentation, how fair you are. Now, when you talk about fairness, you want to bring in context because it's also very important. Context helps you in being consistently fair in how you deal with issues. So the biggest mistake, again, comes down to documentation. The outcome of an arbitration is, it's not just so much about the outcome, it's more about what did you do to get to that outcome. And that is where being fair and documenting comes to play. Now, there are cases where organizations have lost very strong cases because they didn't interview relevant witnesses. It still boils down to the process you follow. So common errors would be not interviewing all relevant witnesses. Why would we get to an arbitration meeting and I just getting to know of new information? It talks about how weak that investigation process was. It's not different from when you go for a stage 2 meeting and it has the stage 2 meeting that you're getting to know about new information. It tells you how weak that investigation process was. As human resource professionals, we can't rely on assumptions. Now, this is not to cast down on the integrity of managers, but managers are supposed to be the first HR managers for employees in an ideal situation. But then again, they're not LR experts. They're not HR professionals, and that is why they need our support. So it's not enough for us as human resource professionals to 100% rely on the word of the manager. That is why you have to go through the investigation process, because the process is as important as the outcome. We cannot ask leading questions. Sometimes asking a yes or a no, it's even safe because it kind of helps you. But asking those open-ended questions allow you to get more context into the situation. We can't be inconsistent. Our documentation has to be top-notch. We cannot afford to be seen as being biased. No. And that is where fairness and consistency comes to play. How we
Thank you so
articulate,
much.
sorry?
Please go ahead.
Yeah, we have to articulate how we got to the end result. Not so much about, oh, this is the final end result. How did we get there? Because in arbitration, the decision-making path is as important as the outcome. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Kenny. Sorry, I was saying thank you because like when you talked about the process being as important as the outcome, I was like, yep, please, that is it. That is the foundational piece. Every other thing sits on top of that. Okay, so we'll ask Imole what he thinks as well.
So what I think is this: credibility in HR, right, is earned when our decisions survive challenge. You have to think about it and work backward. Can this decision survive a challenge? I've come to realize from the many arbitrations I've been in and cases, senior leaders trust HR professionals who demonstrate sound judgment under pressure, not just empathy or compliance knowledge. Empathy and compliance knowledge is critical, but sound judgment, and it's a muscle. It's a muscle. We have to grow it, and that's one of the things that separates you. So they've talked about, documentation and all of that. You must keep in mind that investigation quality, proportional discipline, and defensible, what would I call it? Defensible reasoning. They are core to every credibility markers. For you to be credible, for you to be solid, you have to combine all of that. So it's not just for us to explain, how the decision was made. Will this decision hold up when it is opened to the world of arbitrators, when it's open to the world out there? And so we must understand that Canadian arbitrators, we need to keep in mind that they consistently place significant weight on the quality of the investigations and the decision rationale when they are assessing every decision that's made. So you must take note. You must ask open-ended questions, quality questions. You must be the principle of fairness sits with them. You must be unbiased. You must be fair and be consistent. I have thrown out cases just because we didn't take certain notes. We didn't capture certain things. And the same we've made certain decisions because certain things was captured, and we use that but what we call balance of probability, right? So in the same vein, if you want to be solid, the weight and the quality of your investigation must be solid. The how you arrive there must be solid. The reasonability must be solid. Context that you applied must be. There's what we call aggravating factors and mitigating factors. You must look at all of that holistically, right? And let that be a base of the soundness of your decision. If you don't operate at this level as an HR professional, you keep making your organization spend so much money, unnecessary money, and we lose credibility. So
thank you so much, Imole. We have time for one more question, but before we move on to our final question for today, I will say that from recent experience, what Imole said about your decisions being held up to scrutiny and surviving that scrutiny is crucial. If you make a decision, you coach a manager, you provide that coaching support, right? And they take a decision. That decision, the basis for that decision, again, is because you have made the inquiry. So there are principles of fundamental justice, which is hear the other side, and you cannot be a judge in your own court. So please, it is crucial that when issues come up and an investigation is to take place, you need to confirm first that there's mandates to go carry on the investigation. You need to understand the context of the issues, identify those issues, and then, like Kenny rightly pointed out, ask the right questions. The process that you follow to arrive at a decision is just as crucial as the decision itself. It is important that people have an opportunity to answer the case that's made against them. It is important that witnesses are thoroughly advised and spoken to. Record keeping is not just for the purpose of, so that we win, so that on my side. And no, it's just so that a clear picture, if it does go to arbitration, the arbitrator has a clear picture of the circumstances, the facts, and the process that was applied in arriving at the decision. For us HR professionals, it is crucial that we are thinking big picture always. It's how we're strategic. That's the premium that we bring to our practice. That's that strategic piece of things. Okay, so question 5. For our speakers, what labor relations scenarios are most likely to catch HR teams off guard in 2026 if they keep operating with a 2020 mindset? We'll begin with Samantha again.
You want to begin with Samantha this time again? Why don't you switch it?
Because in my head there's an order. I also think it's been easy for me because that's how you guys are arranged on my screen. But we can switch it up. We can start with Imole, and then we'll take it the other way around. Imole to begin, and then Kenny will stay in the middle, and then Samantha.
Okay, now you have trapped me. I didn't mean that you trapped me, but of course you can start with me.
We'll begin with Imole. Please, your thoughts.
Yes. So I mean, ideally, you shouldn't have any labor relations situation that should catch you off guard in 2026. Ideally, if you are open, if you are pragmatic, and if you understand the nature of work and the human nature. And that's why I posted something recently and I said, as an HR professional, one of the hats we wear is a psychologist. If you're in the people business, you're in a legal arena. And if you're in the people business, you must not be naive about people. You understand? And that simply means as HR professional, we must be unbiased. Unbiased doesn't mean you are perfect, but unbiased means that you are aware of your own bias. Every of us have bias, but you are aware, you're not in denial of your own bias. But at the same time, you understand the principle that governs what governs our profession. The principle of fairness, not color, not ethnicity, not anything beyond the principle of fairness and the principle of human decency, and more importantly, protecting the organization. Let's not miss it. We are there for the organization. But the wise HR knows that while you are there for the organization, the people run the organization. Therefore, you are there for the people because the people make the organization success. So what I'll say is this, that labor relations skills separate HR professionals from other leaders. Are you getting what I'm saying? And once you have the skills, you pay attention to what we call labor relation capabilities. Once you know the risk markers, you are seeing your grievances going up. You understand? Definitely there's going to be issues. You are seeing that you decided to do survey and you are looking at the data in the survey and you're not paying attention to the data. It doesn't mean you are doing everything in the survey, but you're not reporting back to say you said, we listened, we did this, but we can't do that. We'll come back to it. Then you're looking for trouble. Once your business is expanding and you're still treating talents, you're still treating the labor market, you're still treating recruitment like you used to be before, you're still allowing managers to treat people anyhow like before because they are managers and they are Dom Perignon, and you don't know how to train them and manage them well, then of course you'll be caught off guard, right? And there's no excuse for you. I don't even believe that you are caught off guard. It's just that you're not paying attention to the tenet of this profession. That's why I'm so passionate about this profession, because what we do in HR impacts lives directly. Don't get it wrong. Everything we do in HR impacts life directly. In our fairness, in our compensation, in how we manage issues, in how we allow our managers to manage people, in how we promote, in how we train, in how we allow those engagements. It has direct impact on people's emotions, people's mindsets, people's passion for the organization or even for their job. So I can't even capture it as one scenario. I'm capturing it as the fact that of course, there are indices. Grievances is going up, complaints is going up, burnout is going up. All of those are going up, and you are not doing something. You are not on the table to come up with specific responses and strategies to mitigate against this thing. Then you are still operating in 1922 mindsets, not just 1920 mindsets, right? Because the world we live now is a different mindset. So I don't know if I captured it to you the way you wanted, but the truth about it is this: the current future HR, the current HR must be informed. The current HR must balance reason, empathy with information. The current HR must be bold and confident to know you're a business partner, and you must be able to have conversations with your leadership, speaking data, not just speaking story or speaking emotions. That part is important. But you are speaking the language they want to hear and point. You are the mirror, you are the map, you are the muscle, and you are the one that helps the organization win in the marketplace. So the mindset you must have that is that progressive, informed mindset. That mindset that you're not afraid, you're confident. And I'm not saying all of this is easy, and I'm not saying you just become that one day, but you must understand what governs, what improves this. Like a lot of us, we need to invest in education, we need to invest in certification, we need to invest in mentorship, we need to invest in relationship, we need to keep reading and expanding our mind. We need to be aware of our weaknesses and put things in place to bridge the gap. That's the only way we can help our organization win in the marketplace. That is our job. Putting in systems, framework, structures in place so that the organization will win in the marketplace. That's why they employed us. And for us to put all of that in place, we need to be that wholesome person in our space so that employees love to come to work and they love to be the best they can so that our organization will win in the marketplace.
Thanks so much, Imole. So very quickly, Kenny and then Samantha.
I mean, Imole said a lot.
Yes. So if you want us to, if you want to
It's
just
okay.
wrap up on your end.
I have a few things I just want to add.
Okay.
So, with the generational shift in the workplace, it's very important that HR professionals understand that issues are going to escalate really quickly in today's world compared with the 2020. So now, as an HR professional, you probably want to be proactive when there are issues. Come with an understanding that unlike 10, 20 years ago, people are a lot more patient. I'm sorry to say, but right now, people are not that patient in the workplace anymore. Like, employees are holding HR accountable. So when you talk about accountability, it's a two-way street.
Mhm.
They're holding HR accountable, they're holding their managers accountable. The union is also holding you accountable. So before you come forward with whatever investigation outcome you're coming forward with, you have to have all your facts in place because your docs have to be in the role. They need to see that you have evidences of whatever decisions you're making. And in 2026, I foresee that there's going to be a lot of conversations around psychological safety. Like I said earlier in the conversation, psychological safety was not so much of a thing years ago, but in today's world is a big deal.
Yes.
Same thing with accommodation. Accommodation is now a must-have conversations in the workplace. And before you talk about undue hardship, you need to have your facts in place to support that claim. So these are conversations that are going to change as the workplace evolves. These were not so much of a big deal a few years back. But in tomorrow's HR, in today's HR, those are conversations employees are bringing to the table. So as HR professionals, we need to have that mind shift, understand what the expectation is from a union standpoint, from an employee standpoint. There's going to be a strong rise in employee activism.
Yes.
And it's not from a negative place. And which is why I said, as HR, we can't say we're avoiding conflict. Rather, we should be positioned to be ready to manage it. You have to lead with courage. You have to lead with fairness. You have to people have to trust you.
Yes. So.
And the only way they can trust you is if you have your ducks in the row, like I keep saying, fact-based investigation approach. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kenny. Samantha, a few thoughts from you.
Yes, thank you for inviting me. Now I recognize Emily's situation because Emily and Candy have shared what I was wanted to share. But I do wanted to say from my perspective, in my experience of couple years, I feel like the labor relations hasn't really changed in terms of the issues. They're all familiar issues. They're just showing up in a very new and a very complex way.
True.
It's not as simple as it was before. In the workplace, now we're considered the psychological safeties, which Candid mentioned earlier. We're also considered the culture aspect. We're considering the mental health, the wellness, the overall wellness. And then most importantly, we also echo back to what Emili's are saying, the principle of a fair environment. We're considering the equity, diversity, inclusions, EDI concept. It's all over the place in the workplace nowadays. But I believe everyone's very familiar. Taking performance management as an example, in 2020, the performance issues are being treated as we identify the issues, we provide the coachings, we share our expectations. If it doesn't work, we go down to progressive discipline routes. And 2026, it's no longer as simple as it is. It is really important, and it's very important, I have to say, what was said and how it landed. Right, the handling performance is not only going to be as simple as it's just a simple key factors and should be fixed going through coachings or progressive disciplines. We also need to recognize that there's our psychological factors. There's a mental health considerations, right? We need, as employer, we need to consider mental health aspects. It's a lot of time behavior issues are tied with the anxieties, right? We have ADHDs in the workplace, the employees claiming. We have a PTSDs that the employees are claiming. We also have a burnout that the employees are claiming. And then we have a lot of issues are linked into those mental health aspects, right? Like that's a very complex issues the employer is still dealing. I have to say, couple years ago, 2020s, the biggest question as HR professional, we always look into the processes, procedures, and question ourselves, are we compliant in the processes? Well, it remains the same question we ask ourselves nowadays. I think more is to it is that are we defensible in the world we're moving into in terms of all of those aspects? That's where I wanted to share.
Thank you so much, Samantha. We are running tight on time. We have just 7 minutes. So over the next 2 minutes, I'm just going to do a quick summary and hand off to Imole. These conversations are essential for us in our practice areas. We've talked about how the labor relations landscape has changed, with employees being more aware of their rights, right? What is owed to them, and with more activity in the labor relations space. We've talked about the risks that are created where we don't document, where we're not adequately training and coaching managers, where we are not looking closely at the issues and following due process or setting precedent correctly, ensuring that the standards we have for investigations, for engagement with employees all round is properly structured. So we've touched on a lot of things. More recently, we've also, with this last question, we've also talked about the need for us to be prepared for scenarios that are coming up. They will come up in different ways. They've always been there, but I think we'll start to see more of them, right? And so what that implies is an understanding that as HR professionals, we must have an awareness of the legal issues. So the employer-employee relationship, what legal issues underline those? And it is crucial for us to consistently and continuously educate ourselves on these issues. And then with that knowledge, armed with that knowledge, we implement policy and practice efficiently in the workplace. So I'm just going to hand off quickly to Imole, and then we'll come back for questions. I think we'll have like 3 to 5 minutes for questions. Thank you, everyone, so much for your patience.
All right. Thank you so much. And I think you've hit on so many important things, aspects and topics today, and the conversation will still go on. But there's just a few things I want to share with you here. And that's because a lot is changing, as we know, especially in the world of work. I just told us that about 31% of Canadian employees are now unionized. There is a high need for people with unionization competences, right? And don't forget, by 2027, about 35% of Canadian employers are retiring, right? So there's a constant need for it. And one of the reasons why we decide to do things like this, as I'm sure a lot of us have gotten value from this conversation, is to equip a lot of us HR professionals to know how to help organizations. And so in the next few minutes, I want to talk to us quickly about our Advanced Labor Relations Certificate course. Now, there are a few institutions in Canada that provide labor relations specifically for HR professionals, and they are amazing. They are awesome. But one of the things we've discovered is that they are very expensive. They are not so affordable, and not many people can really afford it, and not many people invest themselves. Yet, I see so many jobs out there for labor relations. And so we have what we call our Advanced Labor Relations Certificate course. It is a course that at the end of it, you have deep understanding of the Canadian labor relations landscape. You understand the negotiation skill that is critical. You have solid tons of real life scenarios, real case studies, practical scenarios of labor relations issues. You will have a deep understanding of the legal aspect of labor relations, because there's what we call the CLC, there's what we call the ESA. All of those, they are governance that governs labor relations in Canada. And of course, you'll be armed with effective communication and conflict resolution strategies to manage labor relations in Canada. Now, this course, there are so many things you're going to get from it. Luminous Consultants, we are approved by HRCI, which means you can get CPD hours, after you do this course. And of course, you have your certificate after you do this course. You have your badge you can share on LinkedIn. You have the certificates, like I said. These are some of the people that have taken our courses. And interestingly, it does occur to me that Kenny was one of the people that took our courses like 2 years ago. And you
I'm
can
happy
hear
I
the way
did
Kenny
it.
is talking. Me and Kenny talk sometimes, and even my head is swelling. Some of the things Kenny is doing. And she started doing labor relations. She took our course 2 years ago. These are some of the people that took our course. We have directors amongst people that have taken our course. We have people who have not done HR before in Canada taking our course and getting an LR course, because it's a practical hand-holding course. It's practical, it's transformative. I mean, because of our time, I'll not talk too much about this course, but we have people with practical experience and testimonials. Just because they took our course, they chose to invest in themselves, right? The testimonial is amazing. It's amazing. It's a certificate course. I have been doing HR all my life, and I've been doing LR. I also teach in University of Calgary. Interestingly, I'm a director of HR in one of the universities right now. I teach this course. Leke, my buddy, also, we teach this course together. He's a director of HR. Labor relations is our space. And so you are getting something solid. It is 100% online. It is a 5-week course, 9 sessions, and it's weekend classes. So nobody is going to it's Saturdays. You are devoting your time, you're devoting attention, 3 hours to learn labor relations from a practical angle. And some of us are positioning for new jobs. We want something solid next year. This is a course for you. And the schools that I know that do this course, they charge as much as 11,000 for just one module. I know they charge 5,000 for just one module of this course. We give everything. The regular investment is 1,500 for the course. We have decided to do early bird discounts for 1,200. And if you choose to register within the next 24 hours, you're not going to pay 1,200. You're going to pay $1,000 for the course. $1,000 for the course. I think is a steal, and I think is a kill, right? Because you go out there confident. You go out there being able to speak the language of labor relations. You go out there learning it from somebody you can understand their context, their language. And we are practitioners on the field. So you're not coming to teach you just what I teach in the University of Calgary because I'm a teacher. No, because this is what I live every day. I'm in arbitration, right? I'm in bargaining right now. And I train leaders. I consult for leaders in all of these things. So you're getting it for a kill. It's an investment that is going to be worth it for you. And there are tons of people you can talk to. You can get testimonials from them of how the course is 5 weeks. It's just $1,000 if you register today. For some people, it's a little stretch. But I can't tell you how much I've spent in training myself, how much I've spent in some of these investments. And it shows when you get into interview, when you're speaking to the leaders, they know you're tough. And for some of us, that investment is a differentiation. So I stopped there. We're dropping the links there for you. Class starts next week, Saturday. For some of us, it's not convenient, but sometimes for you to be ready for your next level, we have people who are doing labor relations actively. They come for the course. And by the time they are done, they say, wow, I needed this course. And they see the difference in their job. So this is an investment for you. This is what we have brought to you. It's just $1,000 today within the next 24 hours. But after that, it goes to the normal price. The link is there. And if you have any questions, the team is online. They can reach out to you. And I hand it over back to Kenny. Is a life witness to that. Sincerely, I just remember just now that Kenny is a part of it. And I talk to Kenny as colleagues. It's not like because no. Samantha is somebody I've also worked with for years. We were doing labor relations together. So let me stop there. Ebele, please take over.
Thank you so much, Imale, and thank you everyone for your patience. We are out of time, but we will be taking questions. If you are able to stay on for the next 10 minutes, that's fine. We'll just take as many questions as we can before we round this up. I have a question here from Linda Bird Paula. Thank you so much, Linda. How do you handle it when employees have recorded conversations without the awareness of others? Any of our speakers can take this.
The question, so let me quickly take that. They took recording without awareness.
Yes, without the awareness of others. When employees have recorded conversations without the other people they were speaking to being aware that they did so.
Well, what does the law say? For things like that, you have to start with what the law says, right? Yeah. Ideally, nobody should be able to record anybody without the awareness and the consent of the other person. Unfortunately, that law stands so much for the employer. You understand? For employees, except you expressly say it. When I'm starting an investigation, I said, we're not recording. You're not allowed to record. That must be established. So once that is established, because where there's no law, there's no sin. Once that is established and is a part of your policy, therefore that is a violation, then you treat it as an infraction. You understand? But if you don't have any policy around it and that is not established, what do? You can't hold me accountable to something that you've not clearly stated to me. It becomes difficult, right? And so it's tricky. Context is also important. What did they use the information to do? Right? There are certain cases that you only protect yourself as an organization when it is a policy and it was communicated, because the arbitrator will always look at that. Even the police will ask that question if you didn't get to that point. Other than that, if you didn't tell me and I don't know about it, what do? You can only treat it as an infraction if it was clearly communicated as a violation, as a policy. Therefore, it is a violation. Other than that, it comes back to you as an employer to do the right thing. But when there's now other aspects to it, maybe they use that recording and there's some level of human rights violations, certain things that were, then it can also become a legal issue, right? That recording, there are legal terms for it. Remember that we are not the police, neither are we in HR, right? We are not the police at all. That's why we are not even allowed to use certain statements. But once it begins to cross certain boundaries and certain lines, then take it to the law if you don't have a policy guiding it.
Thank you so much, Imole. Yeah. So we have our next question. Linda, I hope that answer satisfies. I hope you're still on here, and I hope that answer satisfies. So we have one of our attendees here. Chidima is asking, how can we as HR professionals build better relationships with the union? Kenny, do you want to take this one?
Yes, so I would say that in relating with the union, if you have to build trust. And one of the ways in which you can build trust is in being consistent. Throughout the conversation, I've laid a lot of emphasis on the importance of being consistent in our approach. Now, in as much as context matters, at the end of the day, if you take on the same consistent approach, the union is going to trust you. So building trust allows you to have a healthy union management relationship, because you can't always come to every conversation from a defensive standpoint. Understand that it's okay to make mistakes, but then again, are your intentions malicious? Because those are conversations we'll have. So the union has brought a grievance forward. You understand that, oh, yes, we've heard. As HR, we also hold ourselves accountable, and that is why you have to be upfront with the truth. So if you understand that, oh, yes, I've made an error in this case, allow yourself to actually hold yourself accountable and withdraw, accept the grievance. So in building trust is one way you can actually have a healthy union management relationship. And one way you can build trust is if you're consistent in every approach you take in managing investigations and managing issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kenny. I think those are the questions that we have. For me, I just would like to add, Chidima, that with the union, and this is coming off a point Imole made earlier, with the union, you can either be combative or collaborative. We want as much as possible when we ask for the union's time to say to them, we need your support or we need your help with ensuring that this does not escalate. I think that's a way to build trust with the union, right? So a union steward, a member services officer, whatever it is, when we have those conversations, of course we need to be careful, because you don't want a union steward to feel like they're talking about the employee they represent behind their backs.
Exactly.
So conversations are held off the record. They're informal, off the record, and we are requesting support when needed or clarifying process and how we intend to approach, right? Sometimes the union is very useful with helping us de-escalate situations. There are union reps who will say to their members, unfortunately, this is not a battle we can win, right? And then they will recommend next steps to their member.
That's so
I know for a fact that there are union reps that are solid in that way. And so in communicating with them, we want to be as clear and as open as possible, and we want to build that trust. But our approach must always be collaborative.
Yeah.
You find that the union is defensive, and that's okay because they're on the other side. But if depending on the language, depending on how we approach, once we build trust, it's easier to do that work. Things will be, conflict is conflict. We can't avoid it. As Kenny has rightly said, we can't run away from it, especially not in today's climate with different generations in the workplace, with increasing awareness of employment rights.
Yeah.
Like ongoing, people are advocating for themselves. Kenny has mentioned something really critical: psychological safety. The duty to accommodate is a legal question. Undue hardship is a legal question. And awareness of all of these things is helpful for us when we're having conversations with union representation. So yeah, I just wanted to include that tidbit. Those are the questions that we have. I don't know if anyone has questions that have been included here about the course, but if we can reach out to Imole and to the Luminous Consultings team, we're very happy to respond. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time. And thank you to everyone who stayed back. Many, many, many thanks to Kenny, to Samantha, to Imole. This was fantastic. I had a good time moderating. I'm very pleased to meet everyone. Please don't hesitate to reach out to the Luminous Consultings team if you have further questions. Everyone stay warm and take care. I don't know if Imole has any last words. Yeah.
Just want to say thank you so much, Ebele. I dragged you literally into this. And can we just drop an icon for Ebele? Thank you so much. If we think she did it, let's drop an icon. Thank you so much. I also want to use this opportunity to personally say thank you to Kenny. Kenny, you're just amazing. Every time you reach out to me, we talk about those things you do behind. I'm always proud of you. Thank you for honoring and being here. We appreciate you. Samantha, my wonderful friend and colleague for many years. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you. We have to make you wake up very early. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. More importantly, everybody that have turned up today. I've seen a lot of wonderful. If you can come on camera, please, so that we take a picture. But while you are doing that, thank you so much. A lot of us are doing so much in the world of HR. We're influencing leadership. We're influencing best practice in our organization. I'm passionate about HR because that is what touches life most from an organizational angle. We spend most of our life at work. And when you do a great work as an HR professional, you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it for generations. You're doing it for somebody's auntie, somebody's uncle, somebody's mom, somebody's husband, somebody's wife, because you chose to do your work very well. And that's one of the things I'm excited and passionate about. So thank you, everyone, so much for waiting. Ed, it's so good to see you. I see you on LinkedIn very well. Ed Cardenas, a senior HR professional. I salute you. Thank you so much. I see a lot of faces here. If you can come on camera so that we just take a picture. Grant. Grant was one of our students. Grant is now an Oga of labor relations, working in labor relations organization, training a lot of labor relations folks. Thank you guys so much. It's so good to have everyone here. Stephen, it's good to see you. Innocence. Thank you, Innocent. I get you. Oladakwa. I'm only calling names because I can see your face. Adebanke, Taiwo, thank you so much. Busayo, Beatrice. Thank you, everyone. Asifats. Yes, thank you so much. I come a lot for Emmanuel. I want to take it now. In the next 5, we'll take it in 5. So if you can just quickly come on camera, so we just snip the screen so that we see our face. Yeah. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. I think I have. I believe in my mind that I have snipped it. Yes. Okay. Well, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Please reach out to the Luminous team. Somebody was asking, can they make a payment arrangement? Just chat with us. We don't really do that because the money is what we are charging is small, but at the same time we can work something out. But let's go into 2026 confidence. And if there's anyone here you've not found a job, please reach out to get help. Right? Canada is big on referrals. Canada is big on your ability to speak the language. Canada is big on trust. Right? So please don't work alone. reach out to the Luminous team. We also provide coaching. We're able to help certain people out. But more importantly, thank you for all you do, and thank you for attending. We have finished the program, but if you want to network, you can drop your LinkedIn, your LinkedIn, what do you call it? Your LinkedIn
profile link. The
profile link.
profile and link. Please drop your link. Yeah.
Yes.
And everyone who wants to connect, click on these links and connect, establish those connections on LinkedIn.
Connection is very important. Somebody's saying that I know Imole is more powerful than 20 resumes, believe me. Right?
Yes.
So we have to be intentional about building those relationships. But thank you so much. Olubomi Jasmine, my person, I see you. Thank you so much for showing up.
Imala, we have a hand up. I think Ed has
Ed,
a hand up, yeah.
oh, Ed, you wanted to say something? We have officially finished this meeting. This is just me hanging out. So please, Ed, you want to say something?
No. I'm okay.
Okay.
Oh, you had your hand up.
Here.
Okay.
Oh.
I saw that you had your
Okay,
hand
was
up.
waving.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright, thank
Okay.
you.
Ed is one of the seniors in HR, very well
Imala,
experienced.
I don't know if it's okay to read out a question from Ifeoluwa Ashaolu.
Like we said, we're finished this officially, but we're just hanging out. So please, if you want to read it out, go ahead.
Yeah, for sure.
Everybody hanging out is just hanging out.
So
Any other
I would like us to put a cap on the hanging out because
Okay.
people do need to get on with their day. So we'll just take conversation and the opportunities to network for another 10 minutes, and then we can end this call by 10:25 thereabouts. Okay, so Ifeoluwa has asked, how do you handle unionized staff who consistently boast about their seniority and the difficulty there is with firing them because progressive discipline and documentation needs to be thoroughly followed? I'd like to ask Samantha her take on this, and then if anyone else wants to share from their experience, very happy to take that.
Yes, it sounds good. Thanks for inviting me and answering the question. I think this is a very good question. Progressive disciplines and documentations are key pieces when employees are handling, or when employers are handling those issues, right? I think really the important pieces of it is that if you treated a cases in one way, then if there's a similar cases come forward, then you need to treat it the same way you did in the previous cases. That goes back to we are talking about consistency. You can't just issue a letter of expectations, say for a tardiness, and then move forward with a written warning for a similar tardiness, and then you cannot justify what was the reason. If there's no previous expectations shared, we always start with sharing the expectations. Goes back to what Emily was saying, you can't assume people that would understand the employer's expectations without sharing on that. So expectations always the key part to start with, and that's how you move forward with progressive disciplines. I think that's really where I see it very important consistencies and the processes. I don't know if I fully answered the questions, and if there are any questions from my answers, then please feel free to ask.
Thanks, Samantha. I wondered if Kenny or Imole had any additional thoughts to what Samantha has already shared. Senior level employees who consistently remind you how senior they are. How do you manage them?
Also, actually, it bothers me that a senior union member would actually even be using their seniority to brag on the grounds of discipline. I mean, that's even questionable on its own. But frankly speaking, it doesn't matter what years of seniority you have. Infractions are infractions. And like I always talk about consistency and fairness. At the end of the day, everybody's going to be held to the same level of accountability. Now, the severity of the incident determines what level of progressive discipline is applied. Now, that discipline is progressive does not mean you can't skip steps if the infraction is that severe. And in such instances, it doesn't matter what years you have in seniority, because what is binding